Hey everybody, RKC here. Hope you've all had a great start to 2025. I've been here in the studio hibernating, doing lots of music production, and as part of that I got set a very interesting challenge, and that was to produce a track with something I've never produced with before. Drum roll please. Ableton Live Lite. Okay, I know, it's not that dramatic, it's still Ableton, I know how it works, but imagine this, going from producing with an infinity amount of tracks in Ableton Live Suite, all your instruments, all your effects, down to using Lite, which has an 8-track limitation. There is no hot swapping, no changing any levels in the drum racks, we've got a reduced amount of instruments and effects, and because Ableton wanted to see what I could do with this software, I was also only allowed to use stock plugins. This challenge was also a collaboration between Novation and Ableton, because if you go and buy a Launchkey Mark IV or any Novation launch key, you get a free copy of Ableton Live Lite. So in this video, I want to show you guys how I made this track, because it turns out I really like what I made, and the combination of Live Lite and this Launchkey Mark IV actually works like a dream. So we're going to start over in Live Lite, but then, of course, for the official release, I couldn't help myself, my big producer ego, I wanted to do some further tweaks, so I have taken it over to Suite to finish it off, so we'll also jump into that session and I can show you guys the difference. So here we are guys, just to prove it to you, we are in Ableton Live 12 Lite, and here's my track from beginning to end. I've got my automations, got lots of my stock plugins involved here. And I kicked off this track actually with something really cool on the Launchkey Mark IV, and that is the chord map, where we can choose any key we want, and then we've got different knobs here to select different chords, shapes and inversions. And I found this really cool set of chords here over with F sharp major, with Adventure 1, which you can see this knob here changes that, and then Explore number 3, where I made this cute little pattern. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And I'd never really be able to play chords that sophisticated, that fast, at that rhythm. So anyway, I just went with it. I loved how they sounded and I recorded them straight away with a straight up Ableton sound, which comes in the synth keys section in the instrument racks in Ableton Live Lite. Got loads of effects and I think this sounds pretty cool. Filtering in, bit of phaser flanger, bit of delay, compression. Next up I thought, okay cool, let's find a little bass sound, see if we can get something rolling underneath my chords. I was really chuffed to find Drift was in Live Lite, and I found this sound, Crunch Arcade, which I just thought was mega. So I just started jamming along to my little chords and got this little bass line. Did a little sidechain compression with one of my drum kits and just saturated it up. But I was vibing on this, I thought this sounded really cool. Moving forward then, the track was sounding quite electronic and synthy. I wanted to work on the atmosphere, bring in some organic elements. I'd just been chatting to my sister on the phone. She just sent a video of my 5-year-old niece practicing for her school concert. It sounded really cute, so I just grabbed the video and dragged and dropped it into Ableton, took the audio, put it into Simpler. This is what it sounded like raw. It's also in Welsh, if you guys are thinking, what language is this? So anyway, loved the tone of that sample, so put it into Simpler and got this little sound. Added a little vocal strip and some automation in my intro. So a little bit more depth now to my soundscape. I could move on with the drums. I found this beastly kit, which sounds huge actually. The kick drum is just like, woof! Now, I didn't have much choice in terms of hot swapping. You can't do that with Lite, so you've got to pick the kit with the best amount of sounds and roll with it. You also can't really go in and mod the sounds. But luckily, Beastly Kit comes in a nice big rack where I've got lots of parameters to play with, and of course I can add all sorts of effects myself. So here's my little Beastly Kit with my chords and my bass. And this was all happening really quickly, which was a good thing. Sometimes I think when you've got like just no limitations, beat making can be a bit slower, but you know, I knew I only had 8 tracks to play with, so it was kind of like finding these parts that are the most important, using them, choosing them and going for it. As much as I was digging my bass line up here, I knew there wasn't actually enough low frequency in it to carry the whole bass. So this is where I just duplicated the track and grabbed the basic sub sine sound and just doubled it up. Woo! So give me some sub. So then when I was enjoying this vibe of my chords, bass, my drums and my little niece for the atmosphere, I did feel quite inspired to write a little vocal hook. So I was jamming over in session view and I came up with this little hook quite quickly actually. So I was really chuffed that I could still use auto shift because this is a brand new feature in Live 12. I'm so happy that it comes with Live Lite. Very good, smart move, Ableton. Very important for beginner producers, all kinds of producers, that we do have a tune-in feature. I found this really cool smoky water amp simulation. Lose your head, loving endless ways, electric, yeah. And then I found this very cool Knob 1 Super Looper, which did an amazing job of working around not having multiple vocal tracks to play with, because it meant that I could keep all these funky little delays going. So if we go from here, through your veins, passion blaze now. Lose your head, loving endless ways, electric. So I could keep this little echo going. So later on through the track, it sounds like there's so many vocal tracks happening, but it's actually just this Knob 1 Super Looper doing an awesome job of repeating certain phrases at different rhythms. And then actually, I would say the whole track was pretty much sketched out within an hour and a half, 2 hours. Really interesting to see what you can actually create just using 8 tracks, stock plugins and Live Lite. Like I said, you guys can go ahead, download this whole set for free from ableton.com. And you can imagine me now when I finished this, I was like, this is cool. But of course, you know, I haven't been able to do my things that I would usually do in my usual workflow and with my usual tools. So once I completed the challenge and the job with Novation and Ableton, I was really keen to take it into Suite and see if I could take it one step further. Okay, cool. So we are in Ableton Live Suite now, guys, and I'll just give you a quick whirl to show you how the track developed and a quick whirl of the master so you can hear what I put out to the world. So I really surprised myself. I thought I was going to go in and tear things up and go crazy, diving in, doing all sorts of tweaks and fiddles. But actually, the changes I've made may not even be that obvious to the non-producers. average Joe's ear. But let me show you guys what I did to take it to the release level that I was satisfied with. So first up, let's have a little look at the track number, because remember we were on 8 in the last session. We have taken it up to 60 tracks. I would say the main changes were doubling things up like the synths. So currently I only had my basic trip keys, but what I wanted to do was make that synth riff sound a little bit bigger. So I did go ahead and add 2 Nexus sounds. The digital xylophone here. And one more super EDM sound, the ice on peak. Dun dun dun, just accenting dun dun dun, dun dun dun. And then all 3 together I felt just brought a little bit more weight compared to just the basic trip keys by themselves. Which still sound cute, but definitely like it with all 3. So the bass I haven't really made much changes to at all. I've kept the same sound, the same stock plugins. But just for a little bit of variation, I have got a new bass for my B section, which is another Ableton bass, which I found and become quite obsessed with, the Rose bass. So it's nice just to have a little bit of variety. Then if we come down to my drums, this is where I'd say I've made the most changes. I did struggle a little bit with the fact that I couldn't change the kick drum in the drum rack in Lite. I just had to kind of accept it, breathe and move on. But I found a kick sample that I like to use. Just a little bit more attack, less sort of weight to it. I also wanted to add a bit more of an organic tone to my drums because they were just sounding quite electronic. I always like to have a blend between the organic and the electronic. So I chopped up quite intensely just a little loop for some drum atmos with some noise in, just to make it that little bit dirtier. And then I added one of my classic hi-hat samples from my 2020 mixtape. This is Vicky O'Neon playing hi-hats. Kept my original tops and the beastly kit. I kept my lovely niece in there. But what was nice about having a few more tracks was I could dive in and use her to create some choppy, glitchy effects as well. I love to do this in all my productions, and I think that's what I really missed about Live Lite only having 8 tracks, was I couldn't just add these tiny little details, little pans from left to right, just to emphasize changes in sections. Creatively then, I wanted to add some harmonies, because I felt like the vocal was just one single vocal line going on and on. You know, you can do so much with effects, but actually it just needed some more layers. So I added a little harmony stack. Lose your head, love in endless ways, electric air. Got some little pans going on. Then arrangement wise and structurally, I never like to do the same thing twice. So I did a bit of variation in my drops. So for example, the second drop, I didn't carry the vocal over. Just went for straight up instrumental. Third drop, I did a big old build, but I did sort of like a half kind of filtered teaser drop. Tease drop here. Bit of filtering going on into the full one. And then I also just altered the end to make a little bit more of an effective ending. With a little breakdowny part. So in conclusion, compositionally, this really isn't that different to what I've created with Live Lite, which is nuts. This has just got like a little bit more finesse and a few more details, which I think does prove that you can make bangers in both of these versions of Ableton, which I am definitely surprised at. It makes me think that maybe I should try it more often, to be honest, because like I said, the production process was faster because I only had the 8 tracks to choose, so I just had to roll with it. So there we go, guys. There's my conclusion and little comparison between Lite and Ableton Suite. I hope this inspires some of you guys who have been checking out whether to invest into Ableton, how to go about it. Like I said, if you did get a Launchkey, Novation, one of these products, you can get this here in the UK for £175 for the Launchkey Mark IV 37 keys. That includes the version of Lite. So I think it's a really cool way to enter into music production. So there we go, guys. That's about it from me today. If you are interested in learning more about Ableton Live, the beginning to end of my production process, then I have released a brand new course with Mary Spender, How to Produce Music in Ableton Live 12. Goes from right at the beginning to right at the end, which is exporting a track to play to your friends, family, or your followers. Quite comprehensive. We're really proud of what we made, so you can check that out in my description below. And then otherwise, check out my tune Passion Plays. It's streaming everywhere now. I'd love to know what you guys think of the whole track. And before I finish, one more thing. If you want to get involved with a very fun, loving, warm and welcoming production community, then head over to my Patreon now, where there's lots of other fun stuff going on and where I'm hanging out most of the time now on the internet. So thanks so much for watching, everybody. I'll see you guys next time. Mwah.